I'm a 27-year-old woman. I ran from my abusive ex-boyfriend when I was 4 months pregnant. I crossed into a different state, legally changed my name, and didn't give my child the name we had originally agreed on together. He didn't know my social security number or my identification number. The only way he had of tracking me down was my name, and that was gone. Long gone. I signed into domestic violence safe haven shelters to eventually get into my own place and find a job. I built a great life for me and my child. I had been planning my escape for just over a year because it felt like the only way out. He would always find me and drag me back. He had convinced everyone around us that without my depression medication, I would act out and try to harm myself. The police ended up believing him and became completely useless to me. They dismissed all 4 of my domestic violence calls as simple disagreements between a couple. I had saved just over $10,000 in a bank account my mother had set up to help me get away and come to her, so he wouldn't find out how much money I actually had. My father helped by putting in far more than I could contribute myself. Whenever my ex got suspicious and asked where all my money was going, I passed it off as bills. In my new town, I've made very few people aware of my situation. Only people who could genuinely help if something were to happen. For the past 2 months, I had been being watched by someone unknown. He always wore a baseball cap and sunglasses, but I could swear on my life it was my ex. I ended up leaving work several times because of panic attacks triggered by seeing this person. He never interacted with me directly, only with my coworkers. He would wait until I was out of earshot before speaking to place an order, and he gave different names each time. My coworkers noticed it was strange. He had been coming in almost every other week, for a week at a time, for 2 months straight, always using different names. After realizing this, I went to the police station to speak with an officer I had become friends with who was aware of my situation. He arranged for patrol officers to drive by my house and keep watch. I never saw the person around my house or driving past it. But I started receiving letters in the mail that I believed were from my ex. None of them were signed with a name. The envelopes had only my old name and my new address on them. The letters said things like, "I love you and I miss you." Vague, unsigned, but unmistakable in what they meant. I took them to the police station and showed my officer friend. He told me I needed to find somewhere else to stay for a while and to file for a restraining order. I created a fake account and reached out to one of my old friends back home. She was relieved to hear from me and said she was glad I was okay. She told me my ex had been trying to report me and my child as missing, which I had already expected. She said he was still there, working his old job, but that he had been taking week-long trips that nobody could account for. What kept me from actually becoming a missing persons case was my mother. The police had contacted her, and she told them everything, showed them proof that I was alive and doing well, explained why I had run, but refused to disclose my location. They then contacted me directly to confirm what she had told them. For the first time, the police actually believed me. They asked if I wanted to come back and file charges or a restraining order. I told them no. I wanted to stay where I was and keep as much distance from him as possible. Then one day I missed my mailman, and he left a slip saying I needed to sign for a letter. I hadn't ordered anything, wasn't on any government benefits, and had no ongoing court case. I reactivated the fake account and messaged my old friend again. She said she hadn't heard anything specific but would ask around. I kept the account active and she messaged me the next morning. She said there was talk that he knew where I was and that he was considering going to court to pursue custody. I asked whether something like that would come by certified mail, requiring a signature. She wasn't sure. I left the letter sitting at the post office all day instead of picking it up. I didn't call. I didn't go. I didn't want to face the possibility that he had found me. I didn't want to go back to that town. I didn't want to go back to the life I had finally escaped. I didn't want to relive any of it. After posting about all of this online, I went to work. When I arrived, my coworkers told me that a man had come in looking for me and had described him perfectly. It was my ex. They told him I didn't work there and warned him that if he came back, they would have him arrested because he had thrown a major fit when they said they didn't know me. I was given permission to leave and seek legal help. I went straight to my officer friend, who put me in contact with several lawyers. I spoke with one who agreed to take my case immediately. He filed charges of stalking, harassment, and domestic violence. He also filed for a civil protection order. A warrant was issued, and officers began searching the area. They had his name and photograph and were not going to stop until he was in custody. I sat and cried. This had been my life for nearly 5 years, running, hiding, rebuilding, and he was still trying to ruin it. I also found out that since I had left him, he had been with another woman who had filed domestic violence charges against him, though that case had been dropped. At least where I lived, courts ruled in favor of mothers in domestic violence situations. He was caught late that night or early the following morning when he ran a red light heading back toward home. He was processed and held in a cell waiting to appear before a judge on his warrant. When he was processed, he was served with the civil protection order as well. During processing, he was allowed to make a phone call. He called his father and told him everything. His father told him he hadn't raised a woman beater and refused to bail him out. Officers also discovered that a second warrant had been issued for him back in his home state a few days earlier. The woman he had been with after me had left him while he was away and had pressed domestic violence charges against him as well. He appeared before the judge that Thursday. They held him on a $100,000 bond because they considered him dangerous and an extreme flight risk. The following Tuesday, he was released into the custody of the other police department, who transported him back to face his charges there. It was looking very likely he would not receive bond in that jurisdiction either, and would simply remain in custody. He was ultimately required to serve 30 days in jail on his home warrant. Officers told me he would most likely remain in custody through both trials, given the circumstances and the level of danger he posed. Civil protection orders had been issued against him in both states. I asked that my name be kept out of any media coverage. I purchased a firearm, bear spray, and other forms of protection. My daughter and I moved to a new address and stayed in contact with the officer who had helped me from the beginning. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. A short time later, news came that witnesses had been found who could testify to the abuse he had inflicted on the other woman. Once witnesses were mentioned, he changed his plea in both cases to guilty. There would be no trials, only sentencing dates. He knew it was over. The final sentencing covered everything they could legally charge him with. 2 counts of felony stalking, 1 for me and 1 for my daughter. 2 counts of harassment, 1 for each of us. 2 counts of domestic violence, 1 against me, 1 against the other woman. 2 counts of felony assault, again, 1 for each victim. 1 count of child endangerment for what he had put my daughter through. 1 count of resisting arrest. The sentences ran consecutively. He received 2 years for the stalking charges combined, 4 months for harassment, 8 months for domestic violence, 4 years for the felony assaults, 6 months for child endangerment, and 90 days for resisting arrest. He would serve his time in one state first, then be transferred to serve the remainder in the other. They didn't impose maximum sentences on the felonies because he pled guilty and waived a trial, but they hit him with everything they had within those limits. The sentencing process took slightly longer than usual because of the cross-state nature of the case. But it was done. My daughter and I had moved again by this point. I thanked God every day for the people who had helped us. After the sentencing, my daughter and I finally felt something we hadn't felt in years. Relief. Real, physical relief. We decided to go out and actually live. We drove down to Florida and visited every beach we could find. We made a direct route to Disney World. I would have spent every penny on this planet for those moments, because for the first time, it truly felt like we were living. We made our way up to Nashville, and I got to share my love of country music with her. After Nashville, we went back to my hometown. It was a lot to process, more than I had anticipated. We started therapy when we arrived. It's a long road of healing, and we decided to stay for a while so that my daughter could get to know her grandfather on my side of the family. My parents flew in, and we began going to family therapy together. I plan to go back to the home I built eventually, but right now, I want to heal in the place where I got lost. I feel pulled here to gather myself, to face what happened, and to find a way to let my past go. I don't think I'll be able to truly move forward if I don't. My daughter seems largely okay. I don't think she had the understanding at the time of what was really happening around her, and I am grateful for that every single day. I'm going to go back to school and work toward a career in social services. I want to help women who are in the position I was in, scared, dismissed, with nowhere to turn. I'm going to wait until I'm in a healthier place mentally before I take that step. I just wanted to put this final piece into words because I am so proud of myself. I am so proud of the life we are now living and the life we are still building together.